Oh no, they're keeping on all the time. Yeah.
So keep the gossiping to a minimum. But they're controlling it. Yes.
Oh, and there is...
No, that was on stage before.
Exactly.
I think it's from
This one over.
I think it's from the last
Okay,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is a bit warm. Oh, Mike.
That's not the one.
You're good.
I'll get one more glass and some new drinks.
Thank you. Okay, how
Feeling
far
good?
away do we have to keep the microphone? Okay, beautiful. Nice. No, you've got so much time.
You had my bit of paper. Phil.
We've got so much time to put in all this.
And literally, and if you want me to repeat, if you want me to re-explain, if you want me to recontextualize, all of it.
Oh, okay.
Literally just be like, Vera, I did not get any of that.
Will there be any slide questions?
Yeah, there'll be Slido, so
Oh, yeah.
we'll have, so in the app they can go in and submit their questions, and then we have around like 10 to 15 at the end for them.
Cool.
So last session I think they got around 48 questions. We're not going to take that many, but there's clearly an appetite, so we're definitely going to dig into it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I did it. You did it.
I'm so relieved.
Do you want some water?
Yes, please. I do. Thank you.
And then I think once you're settled with the water and everything, probably the crowd will rushing. So if we can just give the thumbs up to the team up there.
Okay, and then we can just go whenever?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Cool. Some water.
Just in the app for the Slido, right? And they can just do that from whenever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe we should set the expectation that I'm moderating them.
Yes, moderator Slido questions, of course.
Yeah. So I can hopefully ask them a question about something unbelievably stupid, wasn't it?
Okay, no worries.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay.
There's water for you.
Thank you.
You're a little bit far away.
No, I'm all good. I feel I'm very locked in. Good? Ready to go? Yep. Ready to go? All right, welcome everyone. How are we all feeling? All right, get the roll spread out, but come on, how are we all feeling? All right, there it is, there it is. Welcome to the online safety panel. Of course, there are a lot of really exciting and emergent issues in this space, so we are really, really excited today that we get to dig into this kōrero, understand a little bit more about the youth development sector's role in supporting young people being safe online, and understanding a little bit more about what young people want and need from the online space. I feel very, very lucky that I am joined by 4 incredible panelists. I don't even want to dig into the bios because they will do it themselves much more beautifully than I can. But really, really excited that for the next 75 minutes, we get to dig into the good, the bad, the necessary changes, the solutions that we're seeing in community, all while having this really strong collaborative kōrero. So this is less of a right or wrong, but how do we do the best things for our young people? We do have the opportunity for a question and answer session, so please make sure that you jump into the app and access the Slido. We will be moderating the questions, so be kind and be nice, and we'll be having some time so that way we can dig into what you will want to hear from our lovely panelists up front. But before we dig into the meat of this kōrero, let's start off with some introductions, shall we? Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Lola toku no Wanganui aho. I am currently living in Wanganui, but also spending a lot of time in Te Whanganui Atara as well. I have over 5 years of experience in the youth development space, which started when I was 12 years old. So I'm now 17 and working with Gen-Z Aotearoa, which is a national youth-led network of rangatahi working to bring together young people from across the motu to connect and collaborate and work together to drive positive change. What else do you want to know from me?
I mean, that's a beautiful place to start. We'll
Great.
pass the rako on and we'll dig into the meat of all of your mahi shortly.
Kia ora koutou, ko whakatū toku wahi whakatipu, ko mahitahi te awa e runai taku nākau, ke pōniki aho e noho ana i nai nei, ko Kate Whitaker toko ingoa. So kia ora, I'm Kate. I hail from Nelson, Whakatū originally, woohoo! But 20 years ago moved to Wellington where I started my journey in education. I trained as a teacher and worked for a decade in schools, predominantly high schools where I was a drama teacher, and then moved into sexual violence prevention, delivering healthy relationships education across Wellington. And from there I found that there was a real gap in talking with young people about pornography. So I started using the Classification Office, which is where I work now, their first part of their 3-part youth-focused research project into young people in porn. I used that part of the research to create workshops for rangatahi, but also for parents and whānau on how to have conversations with rangatahi in a way that rangatahi say will work for them. So I now work with the office, the Classification Office, Te Mana Whakaatu. I've been there since 2019. You probably know us best for giving the R16 rating, for example, to a movie or show, but we also have a forensic function where we classify forensic material, and we also have a education and outreach function where we communicate both our mahi and also our research. We do a lot of research in the office, and because our research impacts rangatahi the most, we do lots of youth-focused research. So it's my job to get that off the shelf and into the hands of those that need it.
Kia ora tātou, ko Vincent Nathan tōku ingoa no te tai tokero ahau, ko te whare tapu o Ngāpuhi e noho ana. I've been a youth worker for... I can't even, it's so long actually. For so many, like over a decade. And at the moment I'm working in advocacy, advocating for our rangatahi mokopuna in state care and who are going through the youth justice system. Really passionate about hearing youth voice and helping them navigate their own world. As well as our worlds at the same time. So yeah, really keen to get into the meat of this conversation from a youth development lens, and kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko TC Ahau, he uri o Ngāpuhi, Ngāti Hine, Ngāti Wai, me Ngāti Whātua ki Kaipara. I live in Whangarei. Seems like there's a taitokero taking over in Ōtautahi at the moment. And I work at the University of Auckland. I'm the Cure Kids Professor in Child and Adolescent Mental Health. And so I've worked in youth health for 33 years now as a youth health nurse. And I guess what's relevant for today's kōrero is that I've been part of the National Youth Health Surveys for the last 25 years, and I'm chair of Te Pau, Te Atahapara Suicide Prevention Centre, and we've been just kind of really looking at how socials influence young people's well-being, but also might be one of the strategies. What some of the strategies are. I'm also part of a group called Safer Socials Aotearoa, which is really about trying to make sure that we've got the best possible evidence to be able to support our young people's well-being, while allowing them to explore the world of the internet as well. So I think that's where I'll stop.
Kia ora, and I cannot forget myself, even though I briefly did. Kia ora, I'm Vira. I'm a youth voice and children's rights advocate, currently working at Save the Children, but essentially wherever the young people are gathering, I am also there. So really excited to support this kōrero today. You've already sort of started touching on your interest in the online space and the youth development sector, but really wanted to dig in. Why is this type of kōrero important to you and the mahi that you do today?
I think as a young person, we're often left out of these conversations, and when it comes to youth development, we're the ones that are impacted the most. We're constantly online, we've grown up in the digital age, and so, yeah, for myself and my peers, it's really important that we are heard and listened to, but also bringing more rangatahi on the journey with us. So yeah, that's where my passion lies, is bringing young people to the table, and trying to open as many doors as I can, with the privilege that I have had.
Kia ora, thank you.
And for me, I think one of the things I love about working at the Classification Office is that we put youth voice at the centre of what we do. We don't sit around a table and say, what do young people want? We go and ask them. And our three youth-focused research projects into online pornography, into body image online, and most recently into extremely harmful content that they might be seeing online, has done just that, has gone out and spoken with rangatahi. So I feel like my job is to convey those messages to those that are working with young people so that they can best serve the young people in front of them.
Every young person I know has an Instagram account, scrolls through TikTok, Snapchat, and Facebook's for old people apparently. And the information that's been fed through these apps or that's been shared, not all of it is truth. And for a young person who's going through the ages and stages of growing, navigating truth can be really difficult. That's why I think this is an important conversation to have. How do we help them sail these waters?
Yeah, and I, as a mama of some tamariki, tai tamariki, it is, nobody taught us how to do this, right? I'm a child of the 70s. We did not have the interwebs when I grew up. And so how do we parent as, compassionate parents, and give young people the opportunity? Even the word social media is about being social, right? Our young people want to connect, they want to be seen, they want to engage in the world and see all the stuff that's going on. And how do we do that, but also protect them from a lot of the really ugly stuff there as well, right? And so for me, this is about, when I was a child, it was like, don't watch the TV, it will rot your brain. And now we're having the same conversations about the internet. And so I really think that we as adults need to make sure that the environment is safe for our kids, rather than saying, don't do the socials. How do we make these environments better for our kids? How do we make them safer? How do we make them supportive? How do we get rid of all the ugly stuff, but allow them to enjoy all of the good stuff? So, yeah.
And I think it's really clear from some of the opinions that we have on our stage, it probably mirrors what we have in the room, right? It's a strong level of concern for our rangatahi. It's a need for young people to be involved in the conversation about what they get to do online. And then it's a lot of care. We want to make sure that they're not being exposed to materials that aren't suitable for age and stage. We want to make sure that they're in a safe, regulated environment. And I think that's really the thing that's kind of propelling this conversation forward. How do we do all of those things well? So I guess I want to hear from all of you. What do you think are the things we can do to keep young people safe online, and what is youth development's role in doing that work?
I think one of the things, if we're working, I think it really depends on the context of the young person as well. I know if we're working with kids who are Māori or Pacifica, it's about having conversations about mana and what does your mana look like online. I suppose we can have that conversation about mana with regardless of culture. And when you can ground their online presence in a spiritual realm, in a realm of wairua, they start to think differently about what content they start to consume. And I was just in a workshop, Pacifica Presentations, where we talked about how us linking into the pou of taha wairua within our models of well-being is not used as it should be, or it's not used at all. And so if we can have these conversations with our young people, and it's only one side of the facet, but I think it's an important conversation to have, like, yeah, what does your mana look like online, and what is mana to you? So if you're standing with your mana out here as a young person, what does that look like for you when you're online, in the many personas that you may hold online, because our young people hold different profiles online, and how is that then perceived to the wider community? And it really starts to shift their thinking about who they're being and their behaviours that they're sharing online. So yeah, that's one thing.
Kia ora, thank you.
I'm going to use some youth voice. So there's some quotes from some of the research that we've done. If you see something worrying, you should feel okay to tell somebody about it. There shouldn't be a stigma around it. So I think at the heart, first of all, we need to be a trusted adult. They need to have trusted adults in their lives that they can go to, who they know are going to respond in a way that's going to work for them, as opposed to punish them and shut the conversation down. I think that's really important. I mean, we can be talking about, engaging with social media. How do you curate your feed? How do you make it show you the things that you actually want to see, as opposed to being passive? What can you do if you do see something that is harmful to you or to others? Who can you speak to about that? I think we need to have brave conversations. I think we need to talk about online pornography and body image and misogyny and extremely harmful content. I think we need to be prepared to sit in that awkwardness as adults, and be able to engage with our rangatahi around that. And build those relationships before something goes wrong, so they know that there's someone they can go to before they do see something. I mean, in the office, we look at extremely harmful content or objectionable content a lot, and it's our job to regulate that, to classify that, so that people aren't able to see it. But yeah, we need to be having conversations about who can they go to, who is that trusted adult for them. And I think the youth development sector has a pivotal role in that, because you have strong relationships. You know how to talk with rangatahi without judgment, without shame. You know how to listen to them. And yeah, your relationships are really strong. And you're also that one kind of step away from that parent and whānau relationship. And I'm just going to read this last quote. You know how you have your home world and your school world and you have your sports world, and it's like 3 different realms of people that all know different versions of you. I think in the home realm, it's really difficult to talk about the hard stuff because you're always there and your parents are always going to be there. You can never really shake your parents. Whereas in a school or a sports realm, these people will disappear and they'll eventually forget about this. But I just think that shows that having people removed feels like that they might be able to share or talk to or go to them. And in an ideal world, they had lots of trusted adults that they could speak to.
That is so, so compelling. I just wanted to trampoline and share that Save the Children, we just finished an online safety report, and one of the key needs that was identified from the young people we surveyed was the need for more trusted adults, more trusted places to go, people who would not judge, who would be okay to hear the hard stuff, but also wouldn't hold it against them for the entirety of their journey with this adult. So I really just wanted to toe-talk that point. Thank you.
I think online safety right now is very reactive. With the proposed legislation on a social media ban going through right now, and following suit of Australia, it's building on fear and control and silence of the rangatahi voice, and that current model doesn't work. We actually have to come from a place of care and wanting to just make it better. And create the conditions where young people can explore and build and create as they need to and as they feel called to. Young people have never been passive consumers of the online world. We've always been creators and shapers and builders, and I really want to kind of encourage you, if you're not seeing that, to like look again. You'll see rangatahi like on TikTok creating content, talking about different like bills and things that are going through Parliament at the moment, or just creating safe spaces in their peer group in school. And those are the things we should be focusing on. That's what we should be encouraging, and that's what we should be putting our energy towards creating. Yeah, when young people feel like they have ownership of these spaces and feel like they have agency in these spaces, that's when we create safer environments. That's when we see that like real transformation is if they feel like they can be themselves online. They can take ownership and report harmful content and talk to a trusted adult. All of these things play into actually agency. In terms of how does the youth development sector play a role in this? Youth development is the how. It's the bridge between young people and creating change. Youth workers have such an excellent opportunity to manaaki young people and support them through this, but also just like the really down-to-earth, real conversations that happen between young people and youth workers, or young people and the people around them that are working with them, can really make a difference.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think the youth development sector understand working with young people. We know that banning stuff doesn't work, right? We know that they will find workarounds. These are digital natives. Like I seriously put on, for instance, like time limits for my my teenager, and then she just changed her time zone to Perth, Eastern time. You know, it's like, honestly, and she was really young when she figured that one out. So I sort of feel like no matter how smart we think we are as adults, these digital natives are going to run circles around us. So how do we do this better? And I've been thinking quite a lot about this. Like there needs to be a tikanga. Actually, it pisses me off, to be honest, that we have to protect our kids from this content that is really damaging online. Our kids should be able to go online and find their people, rejoice in the things that they're into, be affirmed for who they are. And I just don't think we've got a tikanga for how you behave online. And as adults, we're shit mentors in how we do this. The trolls out there are mostly a lot of adults who are behaving really badly. And this is the stuff that we see from young people. They're saying, actually, you know, you guys need to sort it out and stop preaching about us not doing stuff. The other thing that I've been thinking about, this analogy, I used to work as the Child Friendly Cities coordinator for Whangarei. And we used to design playgrounds for young people. And honestly, if we got it wrong, there were whānau ringing us up to have a go at us. And so I often think about the concept of designing an environment that is safe, that is fun, that allows young people to connect the exact same way that we do in a playground. We would not tolerate unsafe playgrounds, right? We would not tolerate it. And I think we've been really passive recipients of these massive mega companies who are feeding this stuff to us that is really addictive, that is dangerous and not so great. But also, how do we restrict that? How do we curate these beautiful environments that allow our young people to engage in this big wide world, but also that isn't addictive, that isn't dangerous, and doesn't expose them to harm. And so, as an adult, I feel like it's our responsibility to help curate and develop this environment that's safe. And we've got levers to do that, but we just don't. And we have to get much stronger about how we do that. Yeah.
Thank you. I think hearing from you and Lola, there's this really strong theme of, young people are the digital natives, we're the creators, we're the builders, we're the innovators, and any solution made without us is going to be now a new obstacle course of us going, okay, how do we navigate through this? How do we find a different platform? How do we just jump over these hurdles, opposed to recognizing through our own agency and leadership in the space, as you said, Lola, that if this is for our own safety, we will be partners in making the environment better for everyone. So opposed to seeing this as something that's imposed onto us, this is something that we are co-building together. And that's just something that's gonna stick in my mind for, for the rest of this korero, I'm sure. And I really want to dig into the specific case studies. All of you are doing such amazing work across different kaupapa. I think I want to start with you, Kate, if that's okay, and hearing about some of the lessons that we can learn from your kaupapa, something that you can share with the audience that we can take away and put into our work.
Okay, so more of the same, really. Putting young people at the centre is extremely important, and that's the way that we work in the office to prevent harm. When we do this research, this youth-focused research, it then informs how we classify, it then informs the resources that we create. And we've got lots of resources on how to have conversations about these sorts of topics on our website. But again, I'm going to go back to the youth quotes because I feel like their voices are more important than mine. Just be calm, don't be quick to anger, and listen, and don't push too hard. Across all three of the youth-focused research projects that we've done from 2018 up until this year, 2025, what they have been talking about has changed, and the technology has changed quite a lot in that time, but what they want from us as adults remains exactly the same. They talk about wanting us not to panic, wanting us to listen, be open to learning. They know that we don't know. They know that we don't know their experience and our experience wasn't the same. They want us not to judge them or shame them. They want us to start these conversations early. Some young people talked about having conversations in kindergarten about this sort of stuff. They don't want us to jump into action. They want us to wait for them to ask us to do something. So one young person says, sometimes there's a miscommunication between I'm in harm's way and need something done, and I just want to talk with you without it affecting my entire life and my social circle. So they're really aware that if they do come and speak about this, there might be consequences for them. They might get punished. Their phone might be taken off them. Their whole social network might be taken off them. One young person talked about being given a phone when she was 6, and she had social media when she was 6, and then her parent went to a talk when she was 14 and came and took the phone away, and she was very confused. Yeah, so I think there's this, adults are having this knee-jerk reaction because they want to protect their kids, right? But then they're not, there's no bridge there. This one young person said, talking about the same sort of thing, and the parent saying, well, if you weren't on your damn phone, then you wouldn't see this stuff. So I imagine if someone was to find objectionable content, which is illegal content, then they wouldn't feel like they could go to a parent, and then what would they do then? So I guess it's about building the understanding and the bridge of communication. And that was from one of our youth advisory panel. We have a panel that we meet with as well. So we've created resources on how to have conversations, but also our most recent research was consultations with young people about the extremely harmful content, where we spoke with 10 groups of young people across New Zealand, and we know that we are not the right people to be sharing those messages. So we're really wanting to build relationships with people who are trusted messengers. So our next piece of work is to develop a train-the-trainer model where we give you the information and the insights that we've found from the young people, and you can take it into your communities and share it in a way that will work for your community. We would love to work with people on that, and I've got a wee QR code and some information, so if you would like to express what you think would work, that would be great. But yeah, so that's the sort of thing that we're looking at the moment.
Awesome, and amazing moves. And something that you've touched upon that I don't think we've gotten to cover much in this korero right now is this whole sense of victim blaming, that young people who experience online harm are themselves, well, well, they experience online harm and it is their own fault because they are online, and that the only solution is to just remove themselves from that environment. Similarly, the approach that people like to take to offline harm, being remove yourself from an environment where you're experiencing harm, opposed to the fact that now the world requires a level of online presence that is very difficult to escape as a young person. So almost being forced by your social circle, by your environmental context, by your extracurriculars to be online, experiencing harm, and then receiving blame for that, but also still having to be online in order to maintain all of those connections and relationships. And I'm really excited if we can kind of start digging into how we kind of shift the focus away from young people are at fault as consumers to the systems are at fault not protecting our young people. And I'd love to hear from you, Lola, about the practical approaches you've seen to look after young people who are online and the work that you've done in order to feature young people online safely.
Yeah, I mean, within, we only work with young people at Gen-Z Aotearoa, so everyone on our team is under 25. We have one 28-year-old, so technically Gen Z. But we only work with young people, and that for us creates a sense of safety just within our team. A lot of us are just mates. We hang out, we are in group chats online, and it's a really joyful environment, and that's what I have tried to create throughout a whole lot of different kaupapa working with young people, is actually just joy, and making it such a safe space that if something ever happens, if there's ever an instance where they don't feel safe online, there are so many people around them that they can go to for support. But there's also just the classic I guess steps that we take to keep our team safe online when it comes to I guess trolls and terrible Instagram comments, and a lot of the work we do is in advocacy, and so it's often really current events and issues that are happening at the moment, and so whenever we post about that stuff, we'll get a couple of comments being like, oh, young people are so stupid, and just go back to school, things like that. And so we have some systems in place where we have a 3-tiered system, which is essentially what we do if we come across comments like that, and whether we delete the comment entirely, whether we hide it in the comment section, or whether we just ignore it. And so systems like that, which are really small but can be really impactful for especially our content creators in our team, can just keep them feeling like they're secure and not being hated on online, which is one of the bigger issues that we come up against. Yeah.
And I just want to dig in a little bit more on that. Is that system co-created with your content creators? Was it through trial and error that you figured out that was effective? What was that process?
That was a system that we came up with in a previous kaupapa, and I've kind of just brought into the mix. But yeah, we were kind of there's no point in responding to these comments, first of all, unless they're trying to actually have an active, engaging conversation and kōrero around it that's productive and not harmful. But yeah, we kind of just had conversations about it, and we were like, you know what? Some things actually really do need to be deleted. We don't need that on our page. Some things just need to be hidden because it's not directly attacking a young person, or not directly attacking their voice or their mana. And some things just need to be left alone. But yeah, it was a product of many conversations and just lots of Instagram posts.
Good. I think kind of in the space of trolls and really negative content, I feel like it's about time that we talk about one of the real, the big monsters that we think of in the online safety space, which is extremism, and the level of extremist content that young people are now being exposed to. And this is where I'm coming over to you, Vince, to hear a little bit about your work, about what are the practical approaches when we're thinking in the extremist content space, what we can do to protect our young people.
Yeah, extremism is, it's not, what's the word, it sits behind a smokescreen. And a lot of young people, even ourselves, don't even realise that we're being enrolled into extremist viewpoints. So unless we know the mechanics of how extremism is portrayed online, it's very hard to then figure out at what stage a young person's been influenced along that journey. So what I'm going to say is everyone come to the Mosaic Workshop tomorrow. At Aotearoa, we've created a resource for anyone working with young people affected by extremism for you to be able to gauge where they're at along that. But speaking to that, I was working with a young person. He was 13 years old, Māori, had viewed a video online about Hitler, and within a week, he didn't like the colour of his own skin, or he didn't like the colour of brown people. And when I sat in front of him, he asked me, do you think it would be cool if you could change the colour of your skin to white? That's how fast extremist behaviour affects young people. In fact, the data shows us that it happens within a 48-hour time period. From the time a young person views some material online, it takes 48 hours before they can actually act out on what they've viewed. So it is a very dangerous space. We've got to know the world of it. It's not enough to just sort of journey alongside. We actually have to do some rangahau ourselves and educate ourselves as youth practitioners as to what extremism looks like in a modern context online. An example of it is, it looks like, I don't know if you see a lot of influencers out there and they've got videos like this. If you want to be a top tier man or woman, you need to be working out every day. You need to have your life sorted. You need to be in this routine. That is a form that is born from supremacy. What it's telling young people is that this is how a man should be. This is how a woman should be in today's society. Because they're constantly fed this narrative through the scrolling feed, they then start to believe it over time. So we've got to help shift their thinking into spaces where actually you are enough, just as you are. And how we can do that is in a plethora of ways, but the best way is to just sit in conversation and ask the questions, share the questions together. Another way is through a lot of young people watch Twitch influencers. One of the biggest Twitch influencers is Aidan Ross, who at any given time can have about 47,000 people viewing his content. A lot of those people viewing that content are young people because they like his personality, the way he is. Aidan Ross himself is not an extremist, nor does he align with white supremacist views. However, all of the guests that he has on his show all have a hidden agenda which speaks to white supremacy or extremism. They'll either be very far right-wing or they'll be very far left-wing. They won't sit anywhere sort of in between in any neutral spaces. Young people don't quite understand what they're being fed at first, but after a while they start to adopt the mindsets of these influencers, which is why they're called influencers, because they influence mindset and behaviours. And if we can just like pinpoint those as youth practitioners and add that to our kete of knowledge, where are the entry points that are happening for our young people? So yeah, if you can make it to the workshop tomorrow, also the mosaic cards that Aotearoa have, there's a whole lot of questions in those cards that you can wānanga with young people about. I used these with this young man that I was working with. We ended up having an amazing conversation. In the end, the outcome for that young man was he became really connected through kapahaka and is still on his kapahaka journey today. Loves who he is, loves being Māori, loves his brown skin. But it was about shifting him away from these negative mindsets that he had. It had literally got to the point where he was so convinced that the information he was receiving was truth. And he had made it his truth. And for young people, when they make something their truth, it's very hard to then influence them otherwise. So you've then got to work with them to help them influence themselves out of it. And that's not an easy process, and it can be long and drawn out. You've got to stay the path with them. It can take, with that young man, it took me a year. That's how long it was drawn out. It took a long time, many conversations, many trips to the taiao, many trips to Kapahaka, many trips connecting him with his culture, before he was finally able to, he had a light bulb moment one day and was like, oh, Vince, I get it. So yeah, definitely also the code of ethics for youth workers that we have. That it isn't just a book of code of ethics, those are lampposts that can guide our way in practice when we're working with young people who are influenced by extremist behaviours. Most of extremism comes from white supremacy. The whakapapa between white supremacy and extremism is closely linked. And so we've got to be well educated as youth practitioners in that space so that we can see ahead for the young person. We've got to be that beacon of light that's shining ahead of them, because they won't see it. It's coloured up so well. It's got music added to it. It's got colour. It's got all these cool people that they're scrolling through that are doing all this cool stuff. But in reality, it's a wolf dressed up as a sheep.
I think I don't know about everyone else, I'm really held on to that 48 hours of exposure, being able to be that influential, and then from you saying a year for that healing, you know, it's terrifying. It's remarkable to see the level of commitment that you're showing in the kaupapa that you're supporting. But once again, 48 hours versus a year, it is just mind-boggling. And I want to pass over to you, TC, to hear a little bit about, once again, more of those practical actions that we can take on, things that you would want to pass over to practitioners, to decision makers, about supporting young people online, what you've seen in your kaupapa that you can offer up today.
Yeah. I sort of want to start with a story of my kōtiro who had a friend who was self-harming, and I sort of want to talk to this from a mental health perspective. And she had a friend who was self-harming. She gets on the TikToks and starts finding out about self-harm. And soon she was getting, every single story was about self-harm, and it got really scary. And she was trying to be a good friend, but actually it got really dark. And so she said to me, Mama, I don't know how to stop getting all of these stories about self-harm and suicide. And it showed me really quickly how algorithms are learning what people are searching for, right? And so how do we train? I said to her, now, Bubba, you have to retrain your algorithm. And she was like, well, how do I do that, Mama? And I said, search up all the things that bring you joy, all the things that you really want to engage in, and we doctored her algorithm. And, you know, young people might not realise, you know, this whole Hitler story, suddenly your feed is full of all the Hitler stuff, right? And same for your mental health. If our young people are feeling vulnerable, if our young people are sort of looking up stuff, or they're looking for stories around how people cope with particular things, suddenly their feed is flooded with this content. And so a little bit of our role is to kind of help people reshape their algorithm. And, you know, as an adult, I've been teaching my mates how to do this too, because a lot of my friends are like, man, it is dark out there, TC. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, all of the interwebs is all about this negative, dark, screwed up political nastiness, wars, all the things. And I said, well, you know, my feed is epic recipes and people falling over and cute animal stuff. And I said, I've deliberately curated the algorithm so that I don't get to see all the political stuff. I deal with mental health stuff every day, and I deal with people's hearts and their pain. I don't want to do that for fun, right? So I've been talking to my mates about how to train their algorithms so that they can get better stuff. So anyway, that's just a little story about algorithms and supporting our kids to know how to fix their algorithms if they're getting really dark. the next thing I want to sort of talk about is the first place young people go for help is online. These are digital natives. They're not talking to youth workers, they're not talking to their parents. The first place they go is online. So how do we make sure that they're getting really good quality information? One of the other things that I've been involved, Dr. Sarah Hetrick, who's one of my colleagues at the University of Auckland and works for Te Ata Hāpera, the Suicide Prevention Centre, has been involved in a project called Safe Chat. And Safe Chat is about working with young people to find the New Zealand phraseology for how you respond when young people are reporting self-harm or really sort of dangerous mental health content online. And so, you know, there's Safe Chat Australia, there's Safe Chat, like there's all these other algorithms for overseas content, but what we wanted was the phrases that young people in Aotearoa use, that there's Māori specific responses to those, that content that's really about, hey, I'm concerned about you. Hey, this, it sounds like you really need to talk to, So using young people language, not old people language like me, and trying to figure out the best ways to respond to online distress. And that's a really, really important thing, because often young people are sourcing their support from their mates out in the online space. So things like Safe Chat, which are really about trying to make sure that we are responding really fast, really to young people's calls for support and distress, and responding in ways that are going to make sure that they get the help that they need. One of the other things that I sort of wanted to talk about was that actually we've got legislation so that young people under the age of 13 aren't on socials. What we know is that about 80% of under 13-year-olds are already on the socials. And so, it's really important that we kind of don't just think that putting in legislation is going to stop young people from engaging in the online world. They just get a foreign VPN. They just work the workarounds. They will find ways to get past this sort of banning. And what Lola was saying, I just sort of think, gosh, if our kids know that this is something that you're against, that you don't want them having socials, then they're going to be afraid to talk to you if they are seeing really scary content online. They're going to be reluctant to talk to a trusted adult or youth worker when they know that it's illegal or that they're not supposed to be in these spaces. So, leaving, as you say, those doors open, not reacting. And as a mama, man, I've lost my shit when young people have shown me some of the stuff that they've been viewing. And it's really easy to be overreactive, especially when it's really disturbing stuff. And you want to take the phone away from them. But it's also going to mean that they're not getting the support of their mates. It's going to mean that they're isolated. They're not going to have the support systems around them, So I just sort of feel like there's a number of things that we can do as clinicians. One of the other really concerning things are the things, around self-harm and suicide pacts. And, we had a recent case, a colleague was telling me that a young person had come to the emergency department, had made this person was 10 years old and had seen this TikTok about this pact. And the professionals kind of made sure they were okay and then discharged them. They didn't ask about the algorithms. They didn't ask about, what their I've just lost the name, what their tag is, actually, how do we find that content and report that content? As health professionals, we need to be asking young people, where did you see that content? Do you know what to do if you see that content? How do we support you to, report that content? Actually, we need to take that stuff really seriously. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry. Talking lots.
I just want to jump in there and mahi to you, TC, and also Linda and the team behind ChatSafe, because it's a kaupapa that Gen Z Aotearoa is about to jump on, and I think it's a really good example of actually how young people can be involved in leading these kōrero. What the team have done is gone to young people and asked them how can we communicate to young people around self-harm and suicide content. And so they've gathered all these insights from young people, and then they've come to a rangatahi organisation, which is us, and asked, can you help us to deliver this to young people? So at every step, there have been young people involved and real champions of youth voice behind it. So this is a really good example of what can be done well and right, and with young people really at the forefront.
And I think something really compelling coming from all of you is that the through line is communicate with your rangatahi, which is not being scared to have difficult conversations, to go into the quote-unquote dark places, really digging into that space, because that's where you're needed the most. And I think that's something that we can all take away in our own practice. Talk, get into it, communicate.
Yeah, can I just speak to that? Young people love a light bulb moment. They love a moment where they're like, oh, whoa, bro, did you see that? If you can give them those moments about the realities of what they're viewing, it really helps shift their mindset. And it might be just revealing to them the truth. There might be a viral clip that's going around, and if you can see the truth behind what it's actually saying and then reveal that to them, you'll get one of those, oh, bro. And then what happens is they then start to spread that truthful information amongst their peers, and it becomes a bit of a snowball. And so that's just one practical thing you can do, like just straight off the bat as well with young people.
And thank you all for such insightful answers. We are now digging into our audience questions, so thank you all for being able to cooperate with the Slido, and we have a couple questions here that we'll dig into. If you want to add more questions, you'll have to rush, but we're willing to take, but we have a couple here already. And feel free to just jump out because they're not addressed to anyone specifically. So to our panel, what do you wish more adults understood about the online lives of rangatahi?
I said this before, but we are not passive consumers of the online world. We're not passive consumers of our TikTok feeds. We don't just scroll and just take it all in and absorb it. Every young person that I know has critical thinking skills. Whether those are always exercised every single time is a different story, but they all have that capacity in them, and there's no point in trying to blame them or shame them for having high screen time or consuming just dumb, silly stuff on the internet, because the reality is there are multifaceted lives of young people on the internet, and nothing is nothing is consistent as well. Myself even, I can flip from being just in work mode on my phone, and sometimes often that is on social media, to scrolling reels, and yeah, it can change and be fluid really, really easily and really quickly.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on that. Through the research that we've done, talking with young people, adults are really surprised about how critically they can think. Often when they've never been spoken to about the topics that we've spoken to them about. We did the whole youth and porn, and 66% of those young people had never spoken to an adult about online pornography, and yet they were talking with us sometimes for up to an hour. And they could critically think about things. We just need to be there to support that critical thinking, and to help them see what things are actually saying to them and spark that au waha moment so that they can then spread that to their peers. because young people also told us that adults aren't always the people that to spread this information. They want to hear it from their peers as well, so we can make one of their peers be that person. That's really helpful too.
Yeah, they're definitely, young people are being educated at a rate faster than any human in human history. If only you watch a young person's eyes, the movement of their pupils when they're gaming, and how fast their reactions are. They're super quick and they're super fast, and they don't need to know information all the time. They already know it. The internet's taught them that. There's not a lot we can teach them that they don't already know, which is why a lot of them find school really boring, because they already know it. Or they've already picked out what they want. They're, like you were saying, critical thinkers across the board. And so our conversation with them has to almost trump their self-education. And that can be testing for adults. And it's, as people who work with young people, we know we need to meet them in their world. This is a big part of their world. And like Terryann was saying, taking away the devices is like cutting off one of their limbs. You just can't do that. You can't cut off a finger, or, you can't do it. A lot of parents do it, and you see the physical reaction the young person has. It's traumatic and it's devastating because you've literally cut off a physical part of their body. And so I would say just do that. Just meet them in their world. Don't try and over-educate them on a world that you come from. Yeah.
TC, anything to add?
One of the things that I've kind of learnt from my kōtiro, who was becoming quite non-verbal with me, and like as a parent you sort of grieve that suddenly they're spending more time on their device than they spend talking to you, right? And I really, really tried, and I'm nowhere near as interesting as her feed. So one of the things that I've sort of learnt as a parent is what they call pebbling. I know, I'm such an old lady. But this language, pebbling, is about, like, I will send her a reel about something that she's really into. And so we might not say anything, but actually she will pebble me when she's wanting to connect with me but doesn't want to be all gushy about it. So she'll send me something that I all really like and that I'll laugh at, and then when I see something that reminds me of her, I'll send it to her. And it's just a way of checking in, letting them know that you are thinking about each other, that you love each other, even if you're not speaking the kupu to each other, that you're still engaged with each other, and you know what they will like, and you know that that's important to them, and this is your way of checking in with them. So there was a time when, she wasn't talking to me, and I was getting, I was trying all the youth development things and failing really badly. And so, but this pebbling thing allowed us to start sending stuff to each other, engaging with each other, having a bit of a laugh about the thing, and still touching base. So I sort of feel like this generation of young people are social in a different way than our generation have learned, and just because this is the way we did things when we were young doesn't mean this is the way that they're going to do things now. And we have to learn different ways of communicating with young people on platforms that they feel comfortable with content that they feel comfortable with, in safe ways. And so, as hard as it is to not want to have these deep, meaningful conversations with people sometimes, learn the reo of the digital space if you want to connect with young people, particularly those young people who are really struggling to verbalise what's going on in their lives. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful reflections. And just jumping on to the next audience question, how do we create a safe space for our young people using AI? I assume young people using AI, not using AI to create the safe space.
Yeah, AI is here and it's not going anywhere. It will become, it will adapt, and the forms of AI will get better and faster and quicker. And as we merge more and more of our technologies with AI, it will become an everyday part of the future of our children and their children and their children. But AI is not a perfect being, and it has flaws. In fact, it's got many. And once again, it's really sitting down in your homes with your own children. If you're working with young people, sitting down with them and having conversation, asking questions to the young people around AI, around the use of it, and really helping them understand where real truth lies. And it doesn't lie within artificial intelligence, it lies within ourselves. And if they can put that at the front of their searches into AI, and also let them know that AI is a learning model, it's not a teaching model. It learns, it doesn't teach. And so it is a forever student. We have to constantly correct it, and we have to constantly evolve it. So when young people say to me, oh yeah, but ChatGPT said this to me. And I said, yeah, but did you get ChatGPT to drop where it got that information from? Oh, nah. Why not? And they were like, oh, because that's where I got it from. And so that opened up a doorway for us to then research what the young person had asked. What we found out was that ChatGPT had it all wrong. And it had actually made up a whole lot of stuff. And then the young person was like, oh, Vince, I'm not even going to ask it stuff anymore. I'm like, no, I think ChatGPT has its benefits. But it has its place in the world of educating ourselves and those around us. And young people are really susceptible to quickness. They want a quick answer, nice and fast. ChatGPT offers that in 0.0008 seconds. And so we've really got to say, hey, question the artificial intelligence constantly. Don't take its truth for face value, but really let it learn from us. Don't let it teach you. So yeah, that's what I say.
Anyone else have anything to add?
In terms of AI content that comes through the office, we've received AI content for quite a long time now, and we actually classify it in the exact same way as we would any other content. So it's within the legislation, we use the legislation to classify content, so whether it's AI or not, it doesn't matter. It's about what's shown in that content, so we can make AI content objectionable or illegal in the space.
And Kate, we do have one other question for you, which is, does the Censorship Office regulate online objectionable material as well?
Yes, we can if it's sent into us. We don't go out and scan all of the online world. There are 25 of us in the office. But if something is sent into us, the Chief Censor also is able to call in things like, for example, the previous Chief Censor called in the March 15 live stream and the manifesto, so they can call in things that they see that they think could be harmful or injurious to the public good. For something to be objectionable, it needs to be injurious to the public good, so it's a really high bar. But yes, so we can do it, but it's not something that we go out and actively regulate because the space is just too large.
And that's really good to know. Moving on to our next question. Do you all think that mātauranga is being watered down because of the online landscape?
It depends on who's wielding it, right? I think that there are some beautiful Māori spaces that are taking ownership of Māori data and taking really seriously what is absorbed into mainstream AI and online platforms. I do think that there will be some data sovereignty stuff that needs to be sorted out, even this recent example of our queer who's had her face used with her moko kauai by a racist right-wing group to sort of talk about something that she doesn't particularly agree with. I think using our images, using our reo, using our philosophies in ways that don't uphold the mana integrity of them needs some tikanga as well, needs some protection. I think if we could create a data infrastructure, AI, that was uplifting mātauranga Māori, that was doing it in safe ways, that wasn't extractive, that isn't going to take away the value of it, that would be a really good thing. I think there are people working on those sorts of things now who are far smarter than I am. So, yeah.
Can I just hear the question again?
Do you think that mātauranga is being watered down in the online space?
No, I don't think mātauranga can ever be watered down. It is an intergenerational moving wisdom that exists from generation to generation to generation. It's there in the va. And so it could never be watered down, it can only be added to. Often we'll get stuck on the wisdoms of our generation and we'll think, oh, that's all going to get taken away. But more wisdoms will come along and stronger wisdoms will emerge. And like they say that the internet, the webs, the intrawebs, that Dietrich Soakai was in the last workshop I was in, and he talked about how knowledge, there's a saying that knowledge is power. Well, it's not actually, it's wisdom is power. It's the mātauranga that is the power. So we've really got to help young people navigate wisdom within that space. And so when we can do that and we can do it well, there's no chances of mātauranga ever being watered down.
I do think people misuse mātauranga.
Aye.
But yeah, I agree.
And our lucky last audience question, are there any guidelines that you all know of that include age and stage related conversations around online safety? So are there any suggested age and stage ways to talk about being safe online? Where are they? What would you recommend?
We have lots of conversation starters on our website and our resources. We're currently in the process of creating conversation starters for people working with youth, as opposed to, we've got parent and whānau conversation starters. So watch the space. If you go onto the Classification Office website, they will be up in the next few weeks. And they go through the age, and they will go through the age and stage, depending on the age of the young person. Yeah.
Yeah, and just have a look too, like as adults, as parents, have a look at some of the content and do some mātauranga around it. It was interesting to, like, cocoa melon, like all the kids love the cocoa melon, like all our little babies, because it was designed by pokie machine creators, so that they were that addicted and that hooked to the colours and the never-ending prize you don't get, because the story never ends. But that's who designed it. So Pokie Machine developers designed that game, and they've made millions and billions of dollars off that show. But that's why when you watch babies watch our babies watch it, they're addicted, they're hooked. And when you turn it off, they scream like someone at the casino not winning their money, because that's how it was designed. So yeah, really look into like the developers behind some of these things, and it gives you an insight into the why. The behaviours are there as well. So.
And NetSafe have amazing resources around this, a whole range of stuff about having conversations with young people, how to stay safe online. Youthline have got some staff. A lot of our youth organisations are actively curating this stuff because we know that it's a really important of young people's lives. So NetSafe have got an incredible resource. So please use them. A lot of schools now are starting to engage in this content too, and there's some content in the education curricula, but I'm not sure what that looks like now because they're changing it again. So, so there are a number of really useful resources if you look for them.
And if there's anything that you can't find and you would like, please come and chat to me because we're in the process of creating more resources. So we want to create things that will be useful for you. So please come and have a chat. Love to hear from you.
And quickly look for the positive in any negatives. I worked with a couple of young boys. They were 9 and 11 years old. 9 and 10. In primary school, they had hacked the school firewall and were accessing porn in a room. We quickly realised that, okay, we need to sort of shift these skills in a positive way because these kids know how to hack firewalls. And so we got them into coding and set them on a pathway of coding software. Both of those boys today work in Australia for software development companies, and one of them is about to start working for Google. So the pathways we can put young people on when we take a negative situation around technology online and really find the strength in it for them to pursue something greater, they're out there, and there's a multitude of them. So.
And already there have been so many really wonderful takeaways and stories during this panel. I feel like I've already learned so much. But as we come to a close, do we have any final thoughts, any final words of wisdom that we would like to share for us practitioners in the room, people who are working with young people? You know, how do we keep our young people safe? That's the core of it.
Keep putting rangatahi at the centre. Keep doing what you do best. You're amazing that you work in this space. I have real awe for you that you turn up and show up for these young people every day. I'm going to, keep with my theme and end on a quote. I wish there were more adults like my sister who are willing to just listen, or people who just want to listen and not do anything crazy, but just listen to what I have to say.
And just connection. All young people are seeking in this life is connection and relationship. And if it means you're just lying on the floor with them and you're on your phone and they're on their phone for the next hour and you don't even talk to one another, it's still connection. You're in a space of connection, and they're happy in that space with you. So, find the connection, and no doubt all of you who are working with young people sit in those spaces on the daily, but still keep that at the forefront. Connection and relationships. Our young people eat it up. So, yeah.
TC, how about you?
I was deep in thought then. I do think that young people, even though they are, online all the time, they still need real people connection, and that's where youth workers, youth health professionals, all the people who work with young people can really shine, and we can be their safe space. We can engage with them, and I really think that connection are your superpowers. So continue to use them in the digital space as well as in real life.
Continue to seek joy, continue to centre creativity and connection and love and hope and all of the good things that you see in the world, and share that with young people and let them share that with you as well. The only way that we can get through this crazy, insane time of being in the world is if we do that together, and if we continue to look forward and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then see hope in that, but also just be there to listen, be there to help co-design and create with young people, be the creators online, not just the consumers. Continue to shape what you want those spaces to look like with the young people in your life. And continue to see the hope.
Couldn't have said anything better myself. So if you could all join me in giving a round of applause for our panelists. It's not easy to come onto stage and to share all of these big stories, and I think it's always really wonderful that we tackle these big, complex issues, and when it comes down to it, the core things that we're taking away care, compassion, love, communication, relationships, all of it. And another round of applause while I give Koha. Come on, team. Because what are we not if not givers? Thank you. I'm a one-man band up here. Thank you, but we do it because it's mahi aroha. There we go, TC. Oh, double tip. And lucky last for you. All right, thank you all for your attention and your participation. You are free, free, free.